Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I guess you can start off by telling about the Friday the 13th barn if you
Yeah,
want.
so obviously, I'm a big horror movie fan, and that's kind of been a lot of fans' bucket list locations is to, get to that barn.
Mhm.
Of course, the house was burned down supposedly by a fan many years ago, but they have just, and people have visited it, and usually, mostly illegally, by
Right.
kind
Right.
of hopping fences or going past security. And I didn't want to quite do that, so there's a guy and his wife it's called New Hollywood, but it's spelled New Hall, like
Okay.
NEWHALL, tours. And so they've been granted to do tours at the Valuze Ranch and the Melody Ranch. And so last month I went to the Melody Ranch, and then just a couple week and a half ago I went to the Valuze Ranch. So, and he was just super nice. I went with a couple others. I invited Brian Coppell from Reel to Reel Locations, and Sean Clark from Horror's Hallowed Grounds and a
Yeah.
lot of Blu-rays. You probably know him. So Sean actually was shooting a video that he and I co-hosted. So
Oh,
keep a
cool.
look at it for a couple of weeks for that. But
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's sacred ground.
Right. Oh, 100%. Yeah, totally. Well, I'm glad you got to go there. That's so cool. Did you get to go to any other locations around that area or?
Yeah, so what we did, so Sean and I, in addition to that, then we took the rest of the afternoon and did all the other Part 3 locations that still exist.
Okay.
So we're held in Edna's store used to be, and then we went to where Vera's house used to be,
Mhm.
and then where the convenience store is, where they bump into the biker gang,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
Shelley shows them the error of their ways. And then we couldn't get to, so Vera's house was actually moved to a new location.
Mhm.
And so that wasn't open that day. So I went back and shot some video. So, but yeah, so it was best we can do. And yeah, keep a lookout for that video.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So Sean makes those videos, right?
Yeah, so
Okay. Cool.
Malfunction is his YouTube
Okay.
channel,
Sweet.
and a lot of people know him from Horror Solid Grounds, both Blu-rays and I. He had been writing articles for Horror Hound magazine under that column,
Mhm.
but I've taken over for the past 5 years, I think,
Okay.
writing for him because I have a big back catalog, and he's busy with other stuff.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah. I guess like I knew about him, but I wasn't too familiar. But then I did the Halloween tour, and that's kind of, I remember I talked to you, and that's kind of when I
Oh
did my
yeah,
research, and I was like, oh yeah, this guy does everything. So
oh
it's
absolutely.
super
So
cool. And he was actually, was that him? And there was a doc made. Maybe it wasn't him. I think he wasn't a doc actually about, I think it was on Shutter. I can't remember what it was, but it was about the filming of something. And I think, or I don't remember what it was. He was featured in something that I was like, oh, I recognize him. And it was some
yeah,
kind of, it was a poltergeist or something.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think I know you. I think you're absolutely right.
mhm.
So, but yeah, more than likely. So, yeah, so
Mhm.
we've been friends for a while, and
That's awesome.
he just happened to mention a couple weeks before that he had never been to the barn. I'm like, well, I'm going to the barn. And he's like, what? And so he he flew back the night before, and so it was a whirlwind. But you know what? You take the opportunities while you can.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I would take that in a heartbeat for
Yeah.
sure.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's open to fans, and there's been rumors, and I actually heard about this during my first tour a couple months ago, about them. They are wanting to kind of rebuild the house and rebuild the lake, and
Oh,
possibly host events and do screenings there and so forth.
oh,
So
cool.
that's about all I'll say, but
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen. And
Okay.
and we bumped into a few times Daniel Valazay, who was, I think he was 13 when they made Friday 13th Part 3, and he actually
That's cool.
worked on the set. So he had a ton of stories. He could actually point out stuff that we never knew, like
Mhm.
where they said they built the basement set behind the barn. They still have the Volkswagen Bug. They still have the spiral staircase. They
Oh,
still have a
cool.
lot of the props and stuff like that. So I'm hoping at a future event that he'll be able to have some of those on display too.
Oh, sure. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
So kind of going along with that, have you, since that was on your bucket list of, one of the top, have you been to other, I mean, I've seen other photos, but other
Sure.
Friday the 13th locations, like throughout the
Yeah.
franchise or?
So a lot of 4, 5, 6. So 6, of course, the camp down in
Mhm.
Georgia I had been to. Not 7 was Alabama. I've not been to there.
Okay.
I did do some Jason Takes Manhattan, i.e.
Oh, sweet.
Vancouver,
Mhm.
British Columbia.
Right, right.
Uh, the you do what you can. So,
Yeah.
but part 4, the final chapter, is my favorite,
Mhm.
and I lucked out. This is about 8 years ago that they did have its original owners were there for a couple decades. I think it was kind of an elderly couple, and then it transitioned to this other woman. And just every time I go to LA, sometimes I just email like, hey, and just can I get I would like to visit or so whatever.
Sure.
And she responded once, and she goes, "What time is your flight land?" I said 10. She goes, "Well, just come over after you land." I'm like,
Oh, no
"All
way.
right." And so I was like pinching myself, like, is this really happening? And so I drove you literally from the airport to the house, and actually she wasn't there yet. So I pulled around back, and that's where Mrs. Jarvis dies, or she gets startled to death,
Oh, no. Yeah, 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 right.
And so I'm just as there's a couple of locations like literally it just feel you get there and it's almost silent because I can't believe I'm there.
Oh.
And that was one of those. And so eventually she came home and she goes, well, she kind of pointed to other parts of the property, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just getting an outside shot. So
Mhm.
I went around and took some different things, and I came back to the house, and I was like, is it okay if I take some inside shots? And she goes, sure, just take off your shoes. I'm like, all right. So I had free reign of the house. I don't know
Oh
how
my
long I was there.
gosh.
I did every inch of that house
Oh,
down into
so
the
cool.
basement garage. I mean, just the storage everywhere and everywhere. And so just super thankful. And I just like,
Mhm.
and then I left. And then later that afternoon, I was like, I didn't take one picture of myself. And you know what I mean? Not
Right,
that
right.
that matters, but
Forget
it's,
about it. Yeah, yeah. But
yeah.
yeah, I get that.
And so I emailed her. I'm like, you can definitely say no, but is there any way I can come back in a couple of days? And she said yes. And so
Oh,
my
cool.
friend went with me, and we just literally I was a short trip because I'm like, here's the 8 shots that I want of me on the counter like Mrs.
Sure.
Jar. And so super nice. Now I'm not sure, like ever since then, she's not let a single person
Really?
in now. And
Wow.
don't blame me. I mean, I was like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
most courteous fan that you could. Actually, I sent her a DVD of the film because she had never seen it. I thought,
Oh
well, you
my
have to
gosh.
see it, just
Yeah. If you're
this
in
is
that house,
your
yeah.
house. But yeah, everything I heard, like she's literally shut down every other potential
Wow.
to visit. But
Dang, you must have caught her on a good day.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm still kind of pitching myself. So that was one, and then my other one I really hold up to is for Halloween H2O. I spent a couple nights at Hillcrest Academy.
No
Um,
way. Cool.
yeah, so they started opening it up where you could stay on one of the 3 cottages, and so I said and it felt like it was expensive at the time.
Hmm.
This is in 2018, so it was like a couple months before Halloween, the new Halloween came out. So it just felt like all the stars were aligned, and they said, "Oh, we're going to put you in the corner cottage." I'm like, "Great, wherever." And so a day before, a couple days before, I was rewatching Halloween H2O, and you see Carrie Tate's cottage.
Hmm.
I was like, I wonder if this, and so I was staying in Carrie Tate's cottage used in the film. So
Oh my
they only
gosh.
used a couple inside shots. So like, when she's looking out and the Michael Myers reflections
Hmm.
behind her. So
Yep.
that was my window looking out.
Oh, cool.
And I was pinching myself because, one, I'd look out at night, and the view out one of my windows was where the iconic shot where she has the axe and there's the long shadows. She's like, Michael.
Oh my
And it was just
gosh.
right there. So, but the best thing was like 3 cottages. Nobody else was staying in the other cottages, and the estate wasn't being used. So literally for 2 days, it was just me and some staff, and I just had
Wow.
free reign of. I went down to the basement where they shot those scenes, to the attics, and just the whole place. So
That's
I even
incredible.
swam in the pool, which they covered up for H2O, but it was the pool in Scream 3
Sure.
where
Yeah, yeah.
they have throws or things. So, but yeah,
Oh,
so
cool. Now, did they know it was the people
yeah,
working there? Okay, okay, cool. I was
yeah,
just
and I was kind of because like, you never know where they'd be like, you can't shoot here, like, but
right.
I'm like, I'm just a fan, and but yeah, they were super nice. So at the
Okay.
time, I said it was kind of obviously it's more expensive. I think it was like 500 a night or something like that. Now their prices have gone up to like $1,900 a night, and you
Whoa.
have to do 2 nights or something crazy
Oh
like
my
that.
God.
But I was just like, now that's because I thought, oh, I want to go back one day, but I'm like, well, not at those prices.
Right, right, right. Well, you did it though. I mean, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Just as it is, but that's cool. I love when people are like know and understand kind of what was shot there and what's because I went to the Sonoma County for Scream locations. Have you
Mhm.
been to
Yeah.
those?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been there a couple times, and then I went to one of the first where Stu's house, they opened up
Okay. Yep.
to spend the night there. Actually, I spent the night down the road it was on the property, but at like one of those little farmhouses or
Right,
something.
right. Did you go to the onset cinema thing
Yeah.
there? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Were you there
I'm
or?
so bummed I missed. I was not there, but I
Oh,
really want
gotcha.
to go. I'm going to the Shining one in October, and then the Dark Knight one in August. So
Nice. Yeah, I went to The Shining at the end of 2019, and that's worth it for just.
Mhm.
It's probably what, 3 shots,
Right,
in the
right. But
film.
it's so cool. Like,
Yeah, and I was excited because I was there a couple nights, and I had everything from sunny days to super snowy days. So I felt like I got
oh, cool. You literally had
all
it all.
all the shots I could. It's like it was perfect, and but yeah, so I'm so glad I went kind of
Mhm.
just for that. And when I was in Boulder, I actually went to the apartment,
You
which is also,
did.
yeah, it's just one shot, exterior kind of
Oh,
establishing shot
sure. Yeah.
down there. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I remember because I lived in Portland for about 3.5 years, and on my way there, that was like the first stop. I never on the West Coast, never been past what was it, Utah or something. And I was like,
Yeah.
the first thing I did was go to the Shining
Oh,
Hotel, and
yeah, you have
I
to. I
have
mean,
to.
and it still looks, well, I guess they have a big kind of awning in front of it
Mhm.
now, but
It looks pretty similar
no,
still.
yeah, it still works. You know
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Right, right. It was cool because I went to the first year I was there. They had like a horror festival, film festival there, and
Gotcha.
Roger Corman was there, and I got to meet him, and it was
Ah, awesome.
incredible. Yeah, I was like, this guy, like, I can't believe he's like right in front of me right now because he's like such an underrated icon that people like
Yeah.
know about, but they don't like really know about.
Yeah. It was interesting that because I know you're going to go to the screening, but it's like obviously it's a it's fans that are coming, because if you're going to travel all that way,
Right.
you're obviously kind of a Shining fan. So, um, and I think I had a sweater that looked like Danny's sweater with the Apollo
Oh,
and stuff
cool.
like that,
Nice.
and at the time I didn't really see anybody else do anything, like people were just there. And then after the movie, I bumped into people. One was dressed up as Shelley, and whatever. So we took a lot of family photos, and their two friends were dressed as the twins. And so
Perfect.
we went around the hotel that night, probably annoying people, and just taking
Sure.
pictures all
Yeah.
over the place.
Oh,
But the hotel embraces it too. I mean,
oh,
they have
totally. Yeah.
yeah, which, why not?
That's so
They're
cool.
making all their money from the skiers,
Oh my gosh.
honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Totally. But yeah, it's such a cool location.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, but yeah, kind of going back to that, like kind of how people enjoy and kind of thrive off knowing the location. Like when I was in Sonoma County, I went to the community center where the high school was, and I
Mhm.
walked in there and I was taking, I had my friends take photos and videos of all the places, and everyone was so confused. They didn't understand what was going on. And I was like,
Why?
you don't know? And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm taking Scream a shot here. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And they
Oh,
just went back to their business. I was like, this is like, dude, Scream is like one of the iconic horror films.
yeah. No, this is like a pilgrimage. I guess now it's getting a couple decades past where people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, was it?" But yeah, you never know. And there's been houses I've been to where they have no idea. And now, granted, it would
Right.
be like, I remember when I went to one of my visits to the Slumber Party Massacre houses. So there was
Oh,
the main
nice.
house, and then up the house next door where the bitchy girl lived.
Mhm.
Um, and so I was taking pictures, and the guy comes over, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, but, I've explained it." He's like, "What?" He's like, "My girlfriend is a huge horror film fan. She has no idea." And
Oh
I'm like,
my
"Well,
god.
she's living in a semi-iconic, people at least have heard the title, Slumber Party Massacre, and
Right.
so
Oh,
forth." So,
where's that then? Where are those
so
at?
that's closer to Venice,
Okay.
California. So,
Gotcha.
but yeah, so those are great houses to visit, and
Mhm.
I don't think I've created an official page for that yet. So
Okay.
the good thing about COVID is that because my traveling stopped, I started working on my backlog of films. So because I
There you
had
go.
over 200 films that I visited locations but never posted. So
Oh, gotcha. That's so nice to have that on the back.
yeah,
Great.
so I finally had nothing better to do, so I
Right,
finally got
right.
around to it. Yeah.
Mhm. Now, yeah. So now I guess you're starting to plan more trips then, right? Because traveling's opening up and
Yeah, so definitely, obviously, I hit LA up a couple times already. Yeah, obviously, my last visit was really good, and I did a
Mhm.
couple more. I had a good trip at Universal Studios, so I always do the
Oh, cool.
VIP tour, and I usually tell them, hey, this is things that I want to do. So they were the great tour guides. They let me not only stop at the Western sets from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but they actually let me go into the saloon where they shot
Oh,
as
cool.
well. And
That's so
then
awesome.
at the we had two tour guides, and so when we stopped at the Psycho House and the War of the Worlds set, they were taking
Oh,
the rest of the tour of
fun.
the world, and I was like, "Can I just take?" He's like, "Want some more pictures of the Psycho House?" I'm like, "Yeah," and so
Mhm.
he went and we took, and he's like, "Have you ever been inside?" I'm like, "No," and
What?
he's like, "Well, come on in." And of course, it's zero
Yeah,
excitement,
yeah. Right,
but
right, right.
still,
It
you're
doesn't
in
matter. You're
it
in the
doesn't
same place. Oh,
yeah, it doesn't matter. So I was like, no, I haven't. So yeah, so
oh,
fantastic tour guides. But yeah,
that's so cool.
yeah, I recommend the VIP, and then I
Okay.
just recommend you tell them exactly what you want to do.
Okay.
So, and we also lucked out that there was nothing shooting on any of the New York or Metro streets, so we had
Oh,
free
wow.
reign to. If you haven't done the VIP, they let you get off at different things, and so we just
Okay.
had free reign to walk around and get all the pictures that you wanted.
That's something I haven't done is the tour Universal. I haven't been there at all. So like that, it's
Oh,
and like Psycho is one of my favorite movies of all time. And that's like bucket list for me.
got to do
But
it. So, well, if you do, I recommend do a VIP, and then
okay.
up front tell them, hey, I want to stop at the Psycho House, or I want to, and
Gotcha.
they'll do their best to
Right.
accommodate, because they get excited fans, but I think they get excited when they have people like you and I that
Mhm.
say, hey, and the guy was like, he's like, I bet you know where the Psycho House was originally, and I'm like, I sure do, is where the best little whorehouse in Texas, Chicken Ranch, was, and he's like, you're
Right.
right, yep, so you know your stuff. But
Mhm. Oh, for sure. It was
yeah,
kind of like when I was on the Halloween tour and they were like, "Oh, the house was here and it was over here." I was like, "Oh, I actually knew that," and it was kind of
yeah,
cool. A little fun fact.
yeah, yeah, you weren't on my tour bus,
I know.
unfortunately, but
I
yeah.
was like, I had Adam. I think it's Adam. Then now locations.
I can't remember. Brian. What? Oh no, Paul.
Paul. Yes,
Paul.
Paul.
Yeah,
Yes.
Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I'm gonna Adam someone else. He's a different
yeah,
location guy, but
but yeah.
yeah, that was great. How did you get that gig?
So Sean and I have known each other,
Oh,
and
right,
he's
right,
actually, yeah, he went back and forth on whether I'm like, they've done tours every time, and for every Halloween convention, like, do people still want to do it? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, well, I need some tour guides, and he's like, I know you can, your stuff. And he says, who else do you know? And so he knew Robert Kerr, who had done it before, and then
cool,
I knew Paul and Brian from their location, so we just kind of each split up the bus
great.
and took it. So,
It was
but
a success. I mean, all the buses I saw were packed.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So that obviously, it everybody still wanted to do
Right,
it. So in the future, why I said, well, there's a couple things. I thought, oh, going to the West Hollywood houses, obviously they're the main houses, but it takes so much time to get there, and then all the
right.
way back to Pasadena and Sierra Madre. And I'm like, we talked about skipping that, or I talked about doing like just a Halloween H2O tour,
Yeah,
or
for
just
sure.
doing things like that. So,
Mhm.
and then I also did a mini tour for, I can't remember, was it Sunday night for the Halloween 3. So there was the Tom Atkins have a beer with Tom
Mhm.
Atkins at
Yep.
the bar. And so I don't know if you were on that one
I didn't
or,
go to that. I
okay.
was doing something else. I think I
So
can't remember what I was doing, but
I gave actually kind of a mini tour where, because we had one bus that had to be going back and forth, and so
Mhm.
what I had to do is they let us off, and I kind of gave a night tour of Sierra Madre, and then that bus went back, and I did another. And then those people all met Tom Atkins, and they kind
Oh,
of back and
cool.
forth. So which it was a Sunday night, because Sunday night Sierra Madre, it was no cars, nothing. So you actually got the Halloween 2 real feel
Oh,
of that
that's so cool.
Kirsten Court, and
Mhm.
stopping by Alice's house. And I was like, nobody used a flash, because people are sleeping or whatever. But this one of the few times you get, you can see Alice's house at nighttime, or the Fog Church at night.
Right. Yep. Oh, the fog church tonight would be cool. So
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to do like, movie specific, like how, the first Halloween and do all of them. And then, I mean, I know there's some locations you can't access, but
yeah.
if it's spread out a little more and like do all of Rob Zombie's locations and because where
Well,
was Halloween 2 shot? Was that
Zombies Halloween 2.
Zombies? Because
I
that
can't even
wasn't,
believe. Usually, I don't even acknowledge the zombie films, but yeah, they were mostly shot in Georgia. And
that's
actually,
what I thought.
I
Okay.
have a whole page to them. And
Yeah.
actually, I
Yeah.
even stayed in Margot Kidder's therapist office is part
Oh,
of the
yeah,
bed and
okay, cool.
breakfast at
Interesting.
12 Oaks. And actually, I requested to stay in that room,
Oh,
just
fun.
just because. Yeah.
Just because you could and why not? Yeah. Yeah.
My rule is, like, if you can stay in a location and eat in a location, you're just two
Got
birds
it.
with one stone.
100%. Yes. And that's something because when a couple years ago I went to the original Texas Chainsaw House and
Oh yeah.
we didn't know like that was kind of when I started getting into it and that was like literally right after I graduated college and I was always in the locations but I never got the opportunity because I didn't have a car, I wasn't, I was in college, I had no money and all this stuff. So
Yeah.
I was kind of like I was in Texas and I was like, I gotta go to these locations. And that's kind of where it all started for me. And yeah, we got there and I was bummed because I didn't know it was a restaurant and everything. I wasn't
Oh,
like, we were just wearing like regular clothes. And I was like, I'm not like equipped enough to eat here. And I don't really have any, but I was so
it,
incredible. And like, you went upstairs and there was like it was so funny because I mean, you've been there and
oh
it's
yeah.
like, you're downstairs. At least when I went, you're downstairs and like there's like the restaurant, and you go upstairs and it's like this grungy band playing and like all this like Texas Chainsaw stuff. It was so
Yeah,
cool. But
which is great. Same thing. I'm love that they embrace it because you could
yes.
also they could be like, no, we're not dealing with that, or but
Mhm.
yeah. So my tips are like I went right when they opened, so I went around and took all my pictures before people were there, and then I
Okay.
ate breakfast, and they were kind enough because they knew, and they're like, well, we'll sit you. I don't know if they said Sally's seat, but
Right, right,
where
right.
Sally sat,
Oh, cool.
this is the right, this is where you should eat your French
Mhm.
toast,
Right,
which,
right, right.
obviously, I mean, I love my horror movies. I know it's fake and everything, but it is always a little strange that you're like, oh, I thought it was a little bit strange. I'm eating a nice breakfast where the same dinner happened in
Mhm.
that movie.
It is eerie. I feel that like just even being at the location, like even being in the Halloween house, like the Myers house, it's like you get this weird vibe. I mean, it's awesome at the same time. It's like this awesomely, it's hard to explain, but people don't understand if you don't like I know you feel it and you're
Yeah.
just like, oh, this is incredible. But
Yeah. Oh, it's sacred ground. And I
it
remember
really
the first
is.
time I went to the Halloween house is like one, I was pinching myself. I couldn't believe it.
Same.
And then we went back at night. And it was even more it
Mm.
just felt like it. And like first time, I mean, I was astonished at how close it was to Sunset Boulevard, like literally,
Yeah.
the busiest street in Hollywood.
Right.
Is It's crazy how they're able to do it and still make it look kind of like a Midwestern street, and how close it is
Mhm.
to Elm Street
Yeah,
and other
unbelievable. And
spots.
it's unbelievable to me. Like, yeah, like you were saying, like they made it look like, Illinois. Like it's crazy to me. Like every time I watch it, I know it's California, but I still get that vibe, which is again one of my favorites.
Oh, absolutely.
Now as like
100%
a
agree.
now as like a horror fan, like what are some of your favorite locations that you've been to? Like, I mean, you don't have to do just horror, but
Sure.
like in general.
Yeah. So if you go to my website, obviously, I
Mhm.
think I say everything from Texas Chainsaw to Terms of Endearment. So
Okay, yeah.
I do a little bit of everything, and obviously I skew a lot to horror. So,
Mhm.
um,
That's what I
so
love about your website, by the way. It's awesome.
thank you. So yeah, so obviously Halloween H2O, I mean, all the Halloween films I love, and I've done all the locations for them, including 2018. And
Mhm.
actually for Halloween 2018, I went out before the first trailer even came out, but I knew some spots they shot at, so I just went and took pictures where
Okay,
I knew they
cool.
shot. And at that time, neighbors were really nice. They're like, "Oh," and like they shot a scene in the backyard here. I'm like, "All right." And then I knocked on that door. I was like, "Can I?" And there's no answer. And then it's like I was like, "Can I take pictures of your backyard? I heard they shot there." And I was like, "I guess." And so I
Yeah.
took pictures. I was going down the driveway and taking out whatever. And I didn't realize until later, that was a scene where Michael bumps into the kids and walks into the backyard. And so I
Oh,
had all these perfect shots without even knowing it. And if you look at my shots, like literally the rake is in the same place. Nothing has moved since because they
wow.
had just finished filming. So,
That's
and then I
incredible.
went back after the movie came out, and I had really just good luck where like I went to the Elrod house. I'm like, can I take a picture of your backyard? Like we don't even answer the door at my house, let alone,
Right, right.
and so they're like, sure. And I'm like, all right. And there's kids everywhere. And then I went to Julian's house, the
Mhm.
kids she babysits. Same thing. I just knocked. I was like, "Is it possible to?" And they're like, "Come on in." And like, here's the bedroom. Here's the closet he came out of,
Oh,
and
wow.
here's the yeah. And then I went to was it Karen Strode's house, Judy Greer's house?
Mhm.
Same thing. They're like, "Come on in," or whatever, and like, and here's the skillet and she used. I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "You should sell that." I'm like, "You can have it." And I'm like,
What?
all right, the community center I went to, I knew they shut the outside of the school there, and I said, "Oh, I was just seeing if I could take some pictures." And he's like, "Sure." He's like, "Well, over here is where they shut the classroom," which I had no idea. And they said, "Yeah, they put fake bookcases here," and I'm like,
Wow.
"Perfect." And then he opened another, and he like, "This was the hospital." I'm like, "All right," like stuff I had no idea. So I don't know I either have really good luck or I don't have that Midwestern nice look. I don't know,
You're very approachable. Like you're
but
very, I
yeah,
get that. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not a scary person
No,
approaching the door. Hope
which is great.
obviously. So
Yeah, yeah. No, that's so cool. That's
so
awesome.
those are some of my favorites, and part of it's just
Right.
serendipity, right
For
place, right
sure.
time.
What are your thoughts on the Halloween 2018 then?
So so I knew some people that saw it before I did, and
Mhm.
even though I saw it, was it a week before at
Yeah, it
the
was like a
convention?
weekish. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I remember somebody warned me. I said, there's a big WTF moment, and you just have to get past it. I'm like, all right, and I kind of forgot about it. Um, I'm glad. I don't know if you were that screening at the convention that night. But it was awesome to see with all those fans because obviously we got all the, we're
Oh,
giggling when they cut to Lori standing across the
oh, it's
street.
so good. And
Yeah,
on the balcony too.
yeah,
Oh
and
my
he looked
God.
and bling, I was like, yes, and it was just kind of all these little things, and so
Mhm.
it kind of made it fun. But obviously, the WTF moment for me was Dr. Sartain
Putting the
being
mask
on the
on.
mat, and I was like,
Yeah.
what? And it felt like it took a while for me to recover from what I just saw. It's like, oh, it was
Do you know
even
what's
some,
interesting is
yeah,
that I was sitting next to a couple guys because I went to the convention. I was by myself and I got out and I was talking to these guys and we were basically walking back to the hotel together. And they asked me my thoughts and they were kind of getting my opinions. And I told them, I was like, oh, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Love David Gordon Green, love the soundtrack, but I didn't like the mask part where the Sartain put and they're like, it was the guys from Trick or Treat Studios who
oh, yeah,
made but
yeah,
they agreed with me though. They were like, one of the guys was like, yeah, I told them I didn't like that either. And it was
yeah,
just funny because they didn't tell me until later on when I like gave my honest opinion.
gotcha.
But I was like,
That's funny.
yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, for the most part, I like it. I know
Mhm.
there's kind of a like H2O was kind of trashed by fans for a while because it was too
Yeah.
screamish,
But I
but
love H2O.
I love H2O too. And then people are now, I think some people are had reconsidering like, oh, maybe H2O is better. I mean, than they have
Mhm.
some of the same themes, and I get it. In reality, obviously, Laurie Strode would have a trauma, but
Right.
would it manifest itself like this for 40 years, in the kind of in
Sure.
the Linda Hamilton way? Maybe, maybe not. But
Mhm.
I was excited that she had Laurie Strode hair. I mean, it's
Yes, that was
it's
one of the best parts.
yeah, those are the little things, that I was just
For
like,
sure.
one of my problems with H2O is it's Jamie Lee Curtis. It was hard for me to say this is Laurie Strode.
For
In
sure.
Halloween
Agreed.
2018, this was Laurie Strode. She
Very
had the
much
Laurie
so.
Strode hair and the
Mhm.
glasses, and she kind of acted like her. So, but
Agreed.
for the most part, so
Yeah. And I think that was my favorite viewing theater experience I think I've ever been to. Besides, I mean, there's a couple other ones, but that I just think like you were saying, like the fans, like you could just tell. Like if I went, so when that movie, like the first day it came out, I
yeah,
remember I bought all my friends movie tickets. I was like, we're gonna go see this movie. I've seen it already. It's awesome. You're gonna love it. And we went and like it was great because they loved it too, but they didn't get like the subtle things that homage to the original. Oh, it's just and even the second one, Halloween 2 and 3, with the trick or
yeah,
treaters. And I
oh
was
yeah,
like, it's just such a treat to be with people like who appreciate that. And that's another reason why I love like locations is because people like you and other people are so into it. And I love just hearing their stories and experiences and seeing how they go about doing things. It's just fascinating to me. I love the community. I love the people in it. So
oh absolutely. And I
yeah.
do remember at that screen, I was also making mental notes because I couldn't find some locations. I was like,
Yes.
where there, and I like they did walk by, and I saw the street sign behind them. Like I'm just recording in my mind. I was like, I went back to my hotel, and I was like, okay, I need to find this. I need to find that. So
Mhm.
and I did. So and
Right.
actually, I haven't finished my Halloween 2018 page, but I think I literally found every single spot. So even like where Lori's driving in the rearview mirror, and
Oh,
the
okay.
cop is going around and stuff like that. So I
Mhm.
make it my for the films I really love to find literally every frame I
That's
can.
awesome. That's so cool. Now, have you done? I can't remember if I've seen this or not, but have you done Halloween Kills yet?
No, I the only one I did is because like when they had the teaser trailer, the "Let It Burn," and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was like, well, I need to find that bridge, and then it took me about 10 minutes, and I found
Okay,
it, and
gotcha.
I did a Google Street View shot, and
Sure.
then I watched the latest trailer, and I've only watched it once, and now I'm trying to erase it from my mind because it gave way too much away.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of
Same.
ignoring everything for now because I'm like
I agree.
I want to enjoy the film the first time, let it wash
Yeah.
over me. And I know some people they want to know everything, and I'm like,
I don't get
no,
that at
no,
all.
no,
For me, I didn't when 2018 came out, I was like, I made a point, no trailers, no image, not even images, nothing. Like I'm sure you did the
yeah,
same. And every movie I would, I would leave for the trailers just in case. And I heard the music. I remember I closed my eyes and ran out of the theater.
yeah,
Like I would do that and like nothing. And then I saw 2018 now, it was awesome. And then I watched all the trailers after and I was like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't watch it. But I mean, I'm a little bummed, but not, but like I saw the Halloween Kills trailer and I just couldn't hold like it was 4 minutes into it and I was like they released it and like 4 minutes later I was like, oh, I'm not gonna watch this. Like I can't. But then I just had to do it. And
I had to.
why?
I can't not. And I was just like, and the thing is, we already know too much. We already
I
know what
know.
Nurse Marion's wearing. We know
Right, right, right.
What Carl Richards is, and
Yep.
so we already have extrapolated everything just literally from half second shots. We're like, oh, that's the
Mhm.
nurse,
Yep.
And so I'm like, all right. So, and there'll probably still be surprises. And what I wish they would have done is kind of do more what that they've done with the tentpole movies. Are like, here's the first 5 minutes. And I think if they show the first 5 minutes of the firefighter scene, which
Sure.
I'll be honest, I already have my issues already with like he kind of turned into Jason there,
Yeah, 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 for
but at
sure.
least that sets the tone, and they're like, here's how I got out, and that's fans. That'd be enough for fans. Say we're going to see the first 5 minutes anyway, and it's enough to whet that appetite of mainstream media. But
And that's more of a teaser anyway. Like,
yeah,
and honestly, like that's how it ends, and that's where it's gonna start. So like, and fans already know that. Like,
yeah,
he's in the house. Obviously, there's gonna be fire. Like, I feel like that. I agree. I think that's where they should have taken the trailer for
yeah,
sure. But
and that's why I thought the teaser trailer was perfect. It was just
Mhm.
pieces, and I was like, perfect.
Stop there.
I don't need more than that, And
Right.
we already know too much. We already know. I mean, we all knew before anything that Haddam Memorial Hospital was back and all these other things. So
Yeah, I know they get. I think that's my issue. One issue with Blumhouse, like the trailers. I mean,
yeah,
I like most trailers. I feel like, but I mean, A24 does like a pretty good job, like Ari Aster. But yeah, I don't know. So like, what are your? I mean, I know you're a horror fan. But,
yeah.
like, what are your? You love Halloween, Friday 13th. Like, do you have like a favorite franchise, or do you kind of just like?
Oof.
I know
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
want to ask this question because I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't know.
sure.
I go in between, but
I would still say Halloween's my favorite franchise
okay,
because it has least been above the average as a whole.
sure, yeah,
There's some awful ones. I'll be the first to admit.
yeah.
And then Friday 13th, I think it kind of hit a tempo, yeah, a peak at the final chapter for me, and then it kind of fell down quite pretty quickly. Same thing with Elm Street, the
Yeah.
first one and the third one were pretty good, and they kind of went down. And the New Nightmare though is one of my favorites. So
Interesting. Oh yeah, New
uh,
Nightmare. I thought you were
yeah.
going to say the remake. I was like, what?
Oh gosh, no. So, and actually, New Nightmare, I've been working on some updates. So, the location manager for that was also location manager for The Stand, the '94
Oh,
miniseries. And I
okay.
think he happened to see my page or something like that. And he says, "Well, let me know if you're anything or whatever." And I think he said, "Or New Nightmare." And I'm like, "What?" And I looked him up, and I was like, "Well, hey, here's three locations nobody's found." And he like literally took pictures of uh, some call sheets and stuff like that. And so sometimes it
Wow.
wasn't super helpful, or I
Mhm.
mean, it did say exactly where it was, but let's say the freeway where Dylan is climbing
Yes.
and
Uh-huh.
Heather, whatever. I had no idea what that could be. Literally anywhere. I had
Right.
no. There's not too many clues, and so he more or less said, I think he gave me kind of a city and freeway, which is kind of a huge area, whatever. But I found it and visited it, and so it'll be on
Cool.
my new page. And Robert Englund's house is like literally a one shot. And I was like, I had no idea where that was, and so he told me where that house was, and
Oh,
so
cool.
I think there was one other spot. Oh, the park. So I knew the park had been totally
Okay.
renovated. That the rocket is gone, and that went to Miko Hughes and so forth. But I
Mhm.
wasn't quite sure where I was at, and he had it right there. So
Okay.
made work much easier,
Right, right, right. Totally. That's so
and
nice.
helps me feel like I'm doing kind of a more complete job.
Sure. And it's kind of that's like the fun of it too, kind of like trying to find the locations, like, contacting managers and,
Yeah.
people who worked on the movie. And I try to, like, if I can't find something, I'll, IMDb and just try to cold email anybody I can. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's just kind
It's
of fun of it.
the thrill of the chase
For
for
sure.
me, and I do get it's usually at midnight where I get some email from, can you find the house from Girlfriend from Hell or something, like, all right, like I go down that rabbit hole and
Mhm.
use a lot of different clues to kind of extrapolate where I kind of think that might be or could find it. So
Sure. Now, do you have, I mean, I'm sure you have a huge list, but like you're on your queue, like, coming up any locations that you're trying to hit or your dream locations maybe, or something that you
uh,
really, really want to go to.
there it's funny because like I've done a lot of horror ones. I've not been to the part one camp yet, and it just
Oh,
hasn't worked out
okay.
schedule wise. So
Same.
obviously I need to do that
Mhm.
and kind of I, as a horror fan, I feel like I should get that out of the way.
100%. Me too.
Yeah. So I need to do that. So there's a couple of interiors for Halloween I would just love to get. So
Mhm.
obviously interiors of the houses that they used for babysitting, just for
Yeah.
same thing, kind of for completeness sake. Um, and there's actually, I was thinking the other day, because I don't go down south very often, and like I'm a big fan of Coal Miner's Daughter,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I would love to do kind of film locations for that.
Okay.
There's a movie, I think it was in 1980 or 81, called The Four Seasons with
Yeah.
Alan Alda,
Yeah.
Karen Barnett. And so actually one of my dream vacations is to hit all four spots.
That would
that
be cool.
they went to. And on Golden Pond, they used to be able to rent out that cabin, and they haven't
Oh,
the past
okay.
couple of years. So that's kind of been dream location. So
Now, where's that
to just
at?
I think it's New Hampshire. I think it's
Oh,
around there.
okay.
So,
Didn't know
but
that.
yeah, so I know that's disappointing all to horror fans that my
Yeah,
dream list is like these
yeah. Right.
semi sappy
I love that though. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So, but like I said, I do it all, and
Mhm.
there were days I think I did terms. No, they were both in Texas, but the Terms of Endearment and Texas Chainsaw, that you just got to do
Okay.
it.
Like the I'm assuming the original Texas Chainsaw. Or...
Oh yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
yeah, when I went down to Austin, yeah, I did that. Texas 2, the Friday 13th remake, I still did that. Uh, what
Yeah, you
else was
got
that?
it.
Yeah, Miss Congeniality. So if I'm
Nice.
in a city, I track down everything I can. So
I love
I,
that.
I follow Madonna around on tour. So if I'm in
Right, right. I remember
Philadelphia,
that. Mhm.
I'll go to the Sixth Sense and
Right.
Unbreakable and kind of all those
Are you
locations.
so you're going to Philly? Is that what you're saying? Or
No, so if Madonna's there,
oh, gotcha.
I will, or if she's in, if I follow her to like Chicago or something like that.
Okay.
I do kind of a 3-for-1 where I kind of go to all those locations.
Amazing. That's so cool. I love doing that too. Like, I mean, I don't follow someone, but like I love finding or taking a trip, maybe finding a show and kind of doing locations at the same weekend. It's like a perfect weekend.
Oh, absolutely. So, but and LA, I know I go LA too much probably, but that's
Everywhere.
where a
Yeah.
lot of stuff is. So.
There's like so much there. There's like endless opportunity in LA, I feel like. So that's kind of nice.
Oh yeah. So, and I feel like that's my second home. But yeah, normally during non-COVID years, I'm out there about 4 or 5 times a year.
Oh, okay, great. Just to visit, or is it like location? Like,
But mostly locations,
oh,
and
awesome.
sometimes they have different events that I've gone to, like the
Okay.
Hollywood show
Okay.
or Halloween Horror Nights. I don't know if you've been to
Oh,
that at
no, I have
Universal.
not. That's my goal.
It is well worth it. The good thing about that, I know they've announced the first Maze for this year, but they've done Halloween and Halloween 4 and whatever. But
Oh,
they love these films so much that they recreated every detail. So like I remember like Poltergeist house, you're walking through the house, and it really does kind of feel like you're in the Poltergeist house. And they had the same counter that the meat kind of crawled across and everything. So
that's so
Halloween
cool.
4, they recreated the garage at
Mhm.
Penny's and everything. So when they do a movie, uh, especially like the ones that you love, it's just amazing how
Mhm.
much detail they get right.
That's what I've heard, and like I'm a big Rob Zombie fan, film fan at least, and I know they did House of a Thousand Corpses.
Hmm.
They did, and I thought that was fascinating. I don't
Yeah,
know
so
how.
I know they announced House on Haunted Hill as the first maze, but I
Oh,
don't think they've
cool.
announced anything else yet. But usually every month or so, they kind of announce another maze that's going to be coming.
Okay.
So we'll
Now
see.
that's something I really want to get to because like the Halloween convention was like that was like my first convention
Mm,
experience. I've never been, and I just fell in love immediately. It was, I mean, and probably because it was horror, it was
yeah.
Halloween, but I want to go to more of those events. I mean, it was just so fun, meeting the actors and crew members and and just hearing their stories and getting photos, and it's just a great experience. And I think the best part is the fans and just like talking to everyone, like random people are like, oh hey, like what's your favorite Halloween movie, and just like yeah, it was just so fun. Loved it.
And you don't have it's not a shame in this, but you don't have to like, oh, you really, the Halloween
Right,
movies, like what? There's a
right,
convention,
yeah.
everybody's there for the same thing. So,
Oh,
but yeah, so I recommend Horror Hound, has great
okay.
conventions. Texas Frightmare usually kind of gets a good
Yes.
list. Those are the main ones that I kind of go to.
Mhm.
And I mentioned the Hollywood show is not quite horror, but they get a good chunk of celebrities and former celebrities
Right, right, okay.
over the years. But like they had a lot of the Carrie cast at the
Oh,
Hollywood
cool.
show, Grease and stuff
Great.
like that. So
That's so cool.
it's kind of worth it too.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I gotta get to more of those. But
Yeah. So what's your dream location?
oh, I mean,
Or
Friday 13th camp would be amazing, to be honest. I really want to go to Vancouver because
mm,
I know there's so much out there, and I'm a big Goosebumps fan, like the show.
gotcha.
And I think that show, like I know there's a few locations I found, like the YouTube videos and things like that, but there's a lot that I can't find. And like I've emailed, scouts and location
Yeah.
people for that show. I've literally tried, and they'll email me back and be like, "Oh, this person doesn't work here anymore, and here's their personal email. You can
Nothing.
try." And I'm like, "I'll give it a try." But
Yeah.
so I think I want to go out there and like where the Bates Motel was. I think I want to go
Oh
there,
yes.
and I'm a big Bates Motel fan, and just yeah, Bates Motel. I think Goosebumps and Friday 13th, and
I went out to a couple times during the first time I went out to the Bates Motel. The motel was there and the house was there for the first season. They didn't build the roof to the house, so it
right,
just had
right.
And so it's just weird in my pictures, you can see them and kind of look. And then I think we went back out and they had, at that time, they just, third season, they kind of built a roof and stuff like that. So,
Okay.
but yeah, so Vancouver is one of my favorite places to go to
Mhm.
because second to LA, because they have everything. They
Mhm.
shot so much there.
Yep.
Most of the Final Destinations were shot there.
It
Um, yeah. Oh, and so, but yeah, so yeah. Send your challenges my way. I can see
For
what I can
sure.
do.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would love to do that.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I feel like there's just so many on my queue, and I'm just like, I just have to, I kind of want to book like a month, just take like a month and a PTO and just go. But
Oh, absolutely. Some people did that during COVID. I'm like, oh, I should have done kind of
I
a road
know.
trip,
Yeah.
and I just didn't work out. Or I'm
Mhm.
less of it sounds like I'm not really a road trip guy, even
Same.
though
Same.
I'll get in the car in LA, from sunrise to sunset, which is probably the equivalent of a road trip, but it's different. You're going from spot to spot to
So
spot.
different. It goes by like that when you're doing
Yeah.
it. But if you're sitting in the car for 4 hours just sitting there, you're not looking forward to anything. It's
Looking at
terrible.
nothing. I was
Ugh.
like, for what, one location,
Right.
so
I remember I was in a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, I was in Wilmington. So I did all like the
ah,
Conjuring, and oh, it was
nice.
fantastic. I rented the car at like, it was like 9 a.m. and I was out till 5 p.m. and it was just, I wasn't bored. I looked forward to so much. It was amazing.
It
So
is it is funny when you get with other set jetters to you kind of have the same mindset. Like we don't even need to eat, we barely
no,
need to eat, like
no,
just go, go, go. What's the next
you're
one?
too excited. You're like,
Let
you're not
let's get what we
hungry.
done. So yeah, so
Mhm.
yeah, how many can you get done in a day? Is
Exactly. Yes, for sure.
I'm jealous you went to Wilmington because
Oh, it's
it's on
cool.
my list for a lot of 80s stuff too, like
Yes.
Firestarter,
Yeah.
Maximum Overdrive,
Hmm.
and stuff like that. But I think I'll wait till post Halloween Kills and then
Yeah.
do it all at once.
Because the Halloween Ends and Halloween Kills are both in Wilmington, right? Because I know Charleston was Halloween, just
Correct.
Halloween 28. Okay, that's what I
Yep.
thought.
Yep.
I
So
remember because
absolutely.
my girlfriend's sister lives in Wilmington, and my goal was like a couple years ago. I was like, once Halloween came out, I was like, okay, my goal is to work on one of the Halloween films. I'll like drive people. I'll do anything. And like, so I put my name in like the
Yeah.
film society or whatever, and I put her address as my address. So I was like, if they email me, I'm flying to Wilmington and staying with her for like,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and
So
they never did, but I was like,
uh,
I would have done that in a heartbeat because
there's a
it's,
lot of fans that were able to be extras and work on the set on this one, which is great. I also though I like to keep the magic alive a little bit. So
I get that actually. I
and
totally
so
get that.
yeah, so I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know if it would be kind of fun, but then
That's a good point.
if you ever been on a set or watched them film, it
Yeah.
is 95% waiting
Yes.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because I work in video production, so
So
like I
yeah,
totally understand that, and like yeah, I 100%. But man,
but yeah, so but oh, absolutely. So yeah, I take any challenges, and I do get challenge emails and stuff like which
oh cool. I'd
I
love to
go
do
down
that.
I go down that rabbit hole, and then
Yeah.
I used to get, I haven't lately, obviously people have been traveling less, but emails from people either traveling to the US or just, and I make them a map. I like, tell me your favorite films. I'll just
Oh
make a Google
cool.
map for them so they can tell me your favorite movies, and I'll just make a map for you.
Amazing. That's great. Oh cool. Yeah,
Well,
I'll
it's for the
definitely send some.
fans. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And I'll definitely send some your way though. I'd love to see if you
Oh,
can
absolutely.
find scout them out. But
Bring
yeah.
it on. Yeah.
And you're Nebraska, correct?
Yes,
Cool.
Omaha, Nebraska. So
Nice.
it's kind of worked out.
It's perfect because I feel like you can fly anywhere for the same amount of time. Like
Oh yeah, it does kind of work out that because people are like, why don't you live in LA? I'm like, it's actually cheaper for me to live
right,
in
right.
Omaha and then travel, and I have a great job, and
Mhm.
that
That's
also
great.
allows me to travel when I pretty much when I want, and
Mhm.
but yeah, a lot of Southwest miles for me.
Totally, I'm sure. Yeah, we're in St. Paul, so it's
Okay,
a similar situation. But yeah,
you even got a bigger airport. You have more direct flights than we do, so
that's true. Yeah,
yeah, it's
but
nice. Yeah.
I gotta hit the Field of Dreams, and I gotta do Children of the
Oh yeah.
Corn. I gotta do all those because I haven't done them yet, but I'll get there at some point.
Yeah, I've not done Field of Dreams. That's
Okay.
not been one of my top film, and I've been to the Children of Corn locations a couple times. Obviously, they're put an hour away from me, I think, so
Right,
it's
right,
not
right.
too far. But
Mhm.
and I think the Myers house is having a screening up there.
Yes, they are. Or I
Yeah,
think they did
or
already. If
did.
not,
Okay,
yeah, something
I
like
can't
that. But
remember. So,
yeah,
but yeah, I thought about going. I was like, well, I should say I've seen it, but yeah,
right, right, right. You've already
but
done it.
it is kind of it is kind of, you do feel like you're in a Children of the Corn town. That the couple times I've been there, because you're the odd person out. Like, whose car is this?
Right, right.
What's this, a Prius coming down the street? Uh, and I had my Isaac hat that I would wear,
Oh,
and so,
fun. That's cool.
but yeah, if for same thing for horror fans, that's a pilgrimage that a lot of people that's
Sure.
means a lot to go to those spots.
Right, totally. And I love that they're kind of, I like Iowa, like I love that it's just in the middle of nowhere, like there's always locations kind of anywhere, which is really cool. And that's kind of what I've been, experiencing and kind of learning about them is like you can go to any state and there's at
Hmm.
least something filmed there, which is
Oh,
awesome.
absolutely. So yeah,
So,
for Omaha, they shot a number of films here. Alexander Payne
mhm.
is from here, and so it's funny that there's a couple like Citizen Ruth is one of my favorite movies. I think that
Okay.
was his first movie, and there's a couple spots I still can't find, and it's my own town. I was like, I can't find this house. Like literally, I can find anything in LA. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
this is probably Century
Right.
City, and I was like, I can't find this house at all. So
Wow. One day, that's a challenge.
I know it just turns into a weird thing where I was like,
Mhm.
oh, why can't this should be my easy work, but it's
Right.
not.
I think there were some Yes Man locations too out there.
Yeah, Lincoln, yeah,
Yeah.
shot out there, and I don't think I have a page for it, but yeah, I went out and did the telephone
Yep. The Thompson
museum.
Museum, the barn, I think was out there
Yeah,
too.
I went out to the barn,
Cool.
and but yeah, so those parts are strange for me to do because I'm like, what am I doing? This is just
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Tu Wong Fu, thanks for everything. Julie Newmar was shot in
Okay.
a small town, and went out there. Not the town is even less than you see in the film.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
or
incredible.
there's even less left,
I
but
think
yeah.
about that with like Gilbert Grape. I feel like I've never been, but I feel like that town, I feel like will be similar to that where you go and you're like,
Oh,
wow,
you
this is
think?
it.
Yeah. Oh, and Alexander Payne did Nebraska, the movie, and actually
Oh, right.
I haven't
Right.
been to any of those locations.
Right.
It's like, oh, it's too far away.
Yeah. It's like just far enough where you're like,
Yeah, that's the
it's
whole
not
day
horror.
for.
So.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Yeah, if it was more horror, I'd be like, okay, then it would be worth it. But
Right.
and part of it is like, what are people kind of clamoring to, or kind of looking for? So like, the
Yes.
Forever Purge came out when I was in LA. So actually, I went to see it that morning and did locations for it that afternoon. So
Oh,
I
great.
I had my notepad.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so I went, I think I did to the 11 o'clock showing and then hit
Mm,
my first location, I think by 2 o'clock out in
awesome.
Pomona and Ontario. So
That's so cool.
yeah,
I love that. Yes, sir.
just to say, and they were super nice. I don't know if you've seen the film. It's
Not yet.
okay, but they shot a lot in the VF. It was a VF American Legion out there,
Oh, okay.
and so I was like, oh, people were there, and I just, hey, can I pick? Yeah, and they literally took me around, and they shot in this room, and they shot in that room,
Wow.
and I was like,
Jeez.
so yeah, so yeah, like I said, I don't we don't answer our own door at my house, let alone
You're
parade
just, yeah.
strangers through.
That, yeah, I mean, that's the
Yeah,
best way to be. I feel like that's so nice.
yeah. That happened in New Orleans too. 21 Jump Street. Do you remember
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, yeah.
So, and usually, I mean, I'm just taking pictures of the outside of the house, and usually more than half the time somebody comes out with like, what are you doing? And I have my
Mhm.
spiel, like, and I always say I'm from Nebraska because sometimes that helps. That came all the way from Nebraska for fill in the blank movie,
Right.
even though it's a long list of different movies. And they're like, he's like, and I was like, well, I'm doing movie locations. He's like, they shot inside. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, come on in. And
Wow.
they pulled it up on the DVR, the party scene
Oh my
with
gosh.
Jonah Hill. And I'm like, and it was Labor Day. And they're like, we're having a Labor Day picnic if you want to stick around. I'm like, well, I got other locations to do, but thanks,
Oh my
So
God.
it's just crazy
That's
that,
amazing.
yeah.
Wow.
Uh, Now, there's that obviously small percentage of time that you're coming around with the camera taking pictures and people like, shut you down and say,
Mhm.
not interested or,
I was gonna say, like, I'm sure you have experience. Like, what's kind of like some of the like the bad experiences, I guess.
oh, there's two that immediately come to mind. One is, I think it was a spot for the Devil's Rejects. I can't remember. It was like a motel diner thing.
Yeah. Okay.
It's way
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere. And I went with a friend, and this is like 12 years ago. And we're taking pictures, and it wasn't quite abandoned, but we didn't see anybody around. And we heard this booming voice. Just I can't even remember what he said, but of course, both of us just pictured shotgun or
Yeah.
whatever, and
Yeah.
so like we just booked out of there and just sorry, and just
Oh my
sped
God.
off without looking back. And then there was another. I was doing a downtown location for One Dark Night. I think the opening murder or whatever. The police
Mhm.
came, and so
Yep.
it's just this building. So I'm literally on just the sidewalk, just taking pictures of this building. And I just turned to go back to the car across the street, and some huge guy came barreling out, screaming and sort of stuff. And then my friend was in the car. I'm like, just let's go, and the a police car was coming, and that didn't even phase this guy. And so
Oh
that's why
my
I knew, I'm
God.
like, I just need to get out of here. And so I
Wow.
got like, it's one of those movie moments, you in the car, door slut, all within half a
Right.
second, and you take off. And I remember
Jeez.
my friend, I'm like, we're done with downtown for today.
Yeah, right. You don't want to be seen by that guy again.
Yeah. So those
Man.
are like, those moments are thankfully kind of few and
Mhm.
far between.
Right.
But most times, yeah, people are kind of curious, and I would do the same thing of like, why are you taking a picture of my house?
Of course. Yeah, for
And
sure. Because you never
it's
want to like be like disrespectful or anything, of course.
no. And I do have some sneaky moments where like, oh, sometimes if I want a picture of the porch or whatever,
Yeah.
because you are kind of traversing their property. So the camera's usually around my neck, and I have it on the sports thing. So I'm just like taking pictures the entire time, and I knock, and if they're there, I talk to them. And if they say no, I'm like, all right, thanks. And I've already taken all the pictures
That
from
is
the porch
genius.
that I want.
Wow.
So I did that at the Tiki Motel, which is from Terminator. And
Oh,
it
okay.
looks just as bad as it does in the movie. But yeah, same thing. I walked in, I said, hey, can I take pictures of the whatever? And they let me call my manager. I'm like, all right. And I'm like, like looking around, stealthily taking pictures, and he said no. I'm like, all right. And then I had all the
You're
pictures
like,
I
I already
needed.
had them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Oh, cool.
Lost. Yeah. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
but you got to obviously check the vibe. And
Totally. Yes.
and the thing is, fans have ruined it for some
The
locations.
Breaking Bad house,
Yeah,
especially. That can
Breaking Bad
be,
house, the Back
oh,
to the Future house, people just doing too
it's such
much.
a bummer. Yeah.
The Elm Street owner house, I don't know if it's changed hands again, but obviously they've been okay with people running back put to the porch and back and forth,
Okay.
which is fine. I mean, I'm sure that gets super annoying for them.
Yeah.
If they really wanted to, they could put up a fence and kind of ruin
That
everything.
would be a
So,
bummer.
but
Yeah. I know. That's like something that I like always am like very conscious about is like, private property. And because like you don't want to ruin like people, like there's always going to be people interested in going to locations. And like I
yeah.
want people to experience the same as, when I went. So it's like,
That's why I feel like the Charleston people don't know what they got themselves into.
oh
Is
my
there's
gosh, us
film
horror fans, we're relentless.
well, that's the thing, and that's why I'm like, and part of me is like, I need to get there first,
Right.
before
Yes.
anybody else does. And why they were still nice. And there was a house that I returned to, and I remember this lady. She was super nice the first time,
Mm.
but it was the house where the lady gets stabbed through the neck, or
Mhm.
whatever. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I was ringing the doorbell, and I think I woke up her baby. But I
Oh,
was
it's
actually being
perfect for the
polite.
movie.
I know, and I was just like, I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Can I take a picture of you? And she goes, I don't think so. And I said, fair enough.
Oh,
Thank you. So but
bummer.
I get it too. I'm like,
I totally get it. Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, that's why I think she's like, go away. You already ruined my afternoon. So,
Right, right. Oh, bummer. That's
yeah,
crazy.
but
Maybe one day.
I had more hits than misses for that
That's
trip.
all that
So,
matters. That's
yep.
all that matters.
Yep.
But cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take up too much more of your
Oh, no.
time.
Yeah, and I appreciate your app, and like I
Yeah,
said, I
yeah.
know you do user submissions, but you can just
Cool.
steal anything you want from mine.
I
It's
appreciate
fine.
that. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I kind of just like, I know kind of like the point of these conversations is to kind of just to get familiar with people. And I mean, I know we've talked already, but it's just kind of cool. I love to hear people's stories and hear their favorites and, bucket lists and all that. So it's
Oh yeah.
fascinating to me. And that's one of the reasons why, we did this kind of app in the first place is to get all those people together. And I just love the community. So
Oh, absolutely. And there's more and more of them. So
I
it feels
know I
like,
keep finding new people and it's awesome. I'm like, hey, look,
yeah, I go back like, 10 years ago, and it felt like a handful of us that were
sure.
kind of doing this. And then now it's kind of feels like everybody is, which is great. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously it's a great hobby.
Yeah,
But then, yeah, the competitiveness in me sometimes like, oh,
totally.
I want to get that first. So and
For
that's why
sure.
like
Yeah.
the Forever Purge, I'm like, well, I'm going to go the day the film comes out,
Mhm. And I have a feeling that like just like I feel like you will always be the first if you do that. Like, and that's such a good thing. Like, I love that. Like, I don't know, like there are people like I've talked to some people and they're like they love like we talked about earlier, like they love the thrill of finding the locations and being the first there. And I love that. And like me, I am like that sometimes, but sometimes I'm like, oh, they already found it. Like I'll just go. And so like part of me like loves that you do that. So I can be like, oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Oh,
great.
absolutely. Yeah. And then, and I talked to other my peers too, and they're like, "Oh, somebody got there before I did," and
I get that for sure though. Yeah.
fair enough. But and
Mhm.
I did, I guess, for Madonna video locations, I was some of the first that
Oh,
nobody took the
cool.
time to figure out where like a prayer was filmed.
Oh,
And
fun.
that was a tough one for me because nobody quite knew where the church was, and the apartment that she was in, it wasn't an apartment. I think it was a World War I battery
Mhm.
arsenal,
Sure.
and ended up being and stuff like that. So it took
Yeah.
me a while to figure that out, but that was another sacred ground.
Must have been satisfying too after completing all that.
Yeah, I like, and then I think I booked a flight because for some reason I thought I found it, and once it's out there in the universe, even though I haven't said anything,
Mhm.
I'm like, I better get there before
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
somebody else
I
does.
love that. I
Yeah.
wish you could like document that. Like I was the first one here. Like that would be cool.
I put a little I think on my website I do every once in a while because then, and sometimes I do, I'll be honest, I get annoyed where I'm like, somebody's like, I found this location. I'm like,
You're like, no.
I was there 5 years ago, like what?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I get that. I totally get why. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. But it's like the
like
worst
all
part is
right.
like, what can you do about it?
No, no. And there's been some first finds, which let's say the Halloween street where he's following the girls in the station wagon,
Hmm.
nobody could find. And one time I just like, I'm gonna do what I can to find it. And it being, because I knew they shot it the same night as the opening scene. So I thought, oh, they're probably around
Sure.
Pasadena
Hmm.
because, they were getting the house ready. And I just looked and looked, and you saw some street numbers. And so it can't be that hard to find. And then finally, one of my mottos is all roads lead to Burbank.
There you
And
go.
sure enough, it is in Burbank, this kind of curvy street.
Oh
And
wow.
when she stops and has to turn right, you kind of see this building, whatever. That's Disney Studios in Burbank.
Oh,
So I was just
interesting.
like, I've driven by there hundreds of times. I'm like, oh, this
Gotcha.
missing location was there the whole time. But
Dang,
yeah,
that's crazy.
but
That's
same thing with
awesome.
Vera's house from Friday the 13th Part 3. I
Okay.
just woke up one morning. I was like, I need to figure out where that block is because nobody had found it.
Right.
And I was going through, people thought it was Santa Clarita, and I was like, oh, I can see a stop sign. And so I had some potential ideas. And then I was going block to block. And then uh, there's one house that had, in the eve of it, they had just a tiny shadow black triangle. And for some reason, I happened to see that on one of the houses. Um,
Wow.
and I think it was the only house left on that street, just by chance. And
Crazy.
I said, and I kind of did some reverse shots and down the street, matched it up, and the house was moved. But
Oh my
I was
gosh.
like, finally. So
That's
yeah,
incredible. Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome. Dang.
lots of Google Street View
Oh, I'm
time.
sure. I do this. Yeah, I mean, not. I don't do that, but like, I try to be on there. Just like when I have time, super
Yeah.
busy. Yeah, for sure. But
Oh
well, that's
gosh.
cool. Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, if you're ever up in like Minnesota or anywhere, just let me know, and we'll love to meet up. And
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
Or
for
if you're
sure.
traveling anywhere, and
Yeah,
because we've talked
definitely.
about like doing more kind of like-minded group
That'd
things
be
for like
fun.
if we're
Yeah.
all into XYZ movie,
Sure.
like, hey, let's just make a trip, kind of like we did with the Friday 13th barn.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's a bucket list item we can all do, and we will all
That'd be so
be
fun.
respectful, and we're all there for the
Yeah.
same reason.
Of
So
course. Yeah. Yeah. No,
yeah,
I'd be all about that. That'd be really fun. So,
yeah, that'd be awesome.
well, cool.
Well,
Well,
great to
great.
speak to you.
Yeah, thank you so much again. It was awesome. It's always great to talk to you and other horror fans. I mean,
Yes.
location people especially, but horror fans is like a little more up my
Oh
alley.
yeah,
So
yeah. Wish we would have met during the H4O
I
convention. That would have
know.
been
Oh my
fun.
gosh, that
So
would have been great. Yeah, because I didn't know anybody there. I was like, all right. I mean, I
yeah,
met people, but yeah, it was
yeah,
like,
no, and it was much bigger than the previous conventions because I
oh,
had been
okay,
to 25, 30, and 35, and this is the first
gotcha.
time they kind of opened it up. So
And I think for me, one of the factors of going was like seeing the movie. I think like a
mm.
week or two before. I think that was like one of the incentives for me to go. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah, because it wasn't even around Halloween. I forgot it was like a couple weeks
no,
beforehand. Yeah,
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. But
Well, maybe
well,
age
cool.
45.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sounds good. I'm down. Um,
Absolutely.
well, cool. Well, thanks again. And I'm sure we'll be in touch over Instagram and stuff. So
All right, sounds good.
cool. Well, yeah, we'll stay in touch. We'll have a
Thank
good
you.
one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hope
I'm
your
just
power
glad my
stays on.
electricity's back.
I
Yeah.
was going to say, I hope it stays on and I hope you
Yeah,
don't
I
get
was like, I think we're good. And we have internet. I was
that's
like,
all
I'll
that
take
matters.
electricity without internet at this point. So,
Start your horror movie now so you can watch it.
yes, absolutely. So,
Cool, cool.
all
All
right.
right,
Well,
cool.
thanks again. Have a
Yeah.
good night.
Yeah, you as well. Have a good rest of your
All
weekend.
right. Bye bye.